Laurent Jean has done it. We talked about it yesterday, and by God, our man has made it to first place. Now I have to say, of course, first place is only a temporary first place. It's going to be very hard to hold on to this, and well, we're going to be looking into the weather for today later, and well, I wouldn't say that they're quite there yet, but for the moment, I guess the old fox has out-wolved the rest of the chickens in the pack, and for that, I think for the nth time, just like in last Vendeglobe, basically has done it again. So my hat's off to the man. So a little toast to Jean, I guess. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, to Jean. Some epic shots of his new boat, and Conrad Coleman, of course, also very close, now in 5th place. And well, the stories were all over today of how exceptionally beautiful the night was, because they had a full moon and it was exceptionally bright. So here is some pretty pictures.
Just look at this night. It is so spectacularly beautiful. It's really amazing. We've got, well, right now 9 knots of wind and I'm doing 12 knots of boat speed. And I'm on a reach with my Code Zero full main and J3 jib. So I've got as much sail up as I possibly can for this angle. And these boats are just amazing. They're so efficient. They can just pull speed from anywhere. I know I've been doing this for a long time, but sometimes I just struggle to believe how cool it is. And this moon, I mean, my God, I have need to turn on my my headlamp all night because I can literally read a book here in the cockpit. It is just so bright. Speaking of bright, well, this option seems to be working out so well for the moment. Pretty happy here in the east, making pretty good speed, and I'm heading due south at the moment, which I think is where we need to be going. So, for the moment at least, I'm a happy chap.
Only a little bit of trouble throughout the night, as it seems, on Group Apicil. Damien Seguin having some rudder problems. He probably hit something, so damaged his rudder a little bit. Was able to continue on the other rudder while repairing this one, and so far all seems good, but so a little setback there, is working on it. Other than that, the weather seems very calm, although most of the boats are making some speed, 8, 9, sometimes 10, 12 knots in 5, 6, up to like maybe 8 knots of breeze. It varies a bit. And yeah, lots of people affecting small repairs, working on autopilots, sail repairs, all kinds of little things just in preparation, of course, of the giant rest of the race and the, well, the epicness of the Southern Ocean still to come. So I guess this could be also a major opportunity, even though it's light and a little bit slow, to get the boat ready really for the second part of the race, when the real tough racing, of course, is still yet to come.
little patches of wind. There's a little dark spot. Wind is a bit exaggerated. It's between 2 and 5 knots of wind. 5 knots is rather rare. Very slow day. Oh well. We're moving still in the right direction.
So let's take a look at the positions right now. Join me in here inside the tracker. So we can see here very nice Jean Le Cam in first, and Conrad Coleman was 11th but now down to 5th. He's really going very close to the coast. Has caught up a little bit to Jean, I have to say. And if we see sort of our second favorite, right, Thomas Rouillant in 30th place and by far the most to the west. So you can really see the difference in strategy here, and make no mistake, this is strategic, right? Like they're not going as far west as possible for no reason, right? This is absolutely by design. They are fully accepting the temporary loss, let's say, over there in the rest of the foiling fleet in order to gain a better position. And where they're trying to get, of course, is, you know, more here on the west side, where we just have much more wind, and making their way down there in those strong winds. So they are deliberately taking a little bit of a beating, let's say, in order to just get more west and follow the wind. But we'll have to see how it works out. Now, if we zoom in a little bit to really get specific with this particular situation, let me grab my pen here. So, you know, this is a bit our box, let's say, well, one group is trying to avoid and the other group is trying to kind of get through, right? So this is the weather plus 2 hours. So as you can see, pretty low, 1.9, 2.9, 3.4, very low. And Jean, of course, is heading seemingly straight in there. Conrad still a little bit more road to go. If we hop a little bit further in time, 5 hours, still very dead. 8 hours, this zone even expanding, and that's right in Jean's path. 11 hours, even expanding more. 14, expanding more, 17, and now we see, yeah, this really now has become kind of vast area. Now, of course, in 15 hours, they're going to be a bit further ahead. But if you extrapolate, I would think that with the current speeds, which, you know, are not very fast, it still predicts them to be, you know, kind of in 17 hours somewhere, I would say, right in the middle of that, right? So, yeah, it's maybe not that bad. So far, it seems that the actual real situation, because the prediction is not the real situation, has favored both Jean and Conrad, and they are both kind of nicely sailing in 8, 9 knots of wind, which is enough for them to actually do a bit of sailing and make good progress. So maybe the prediction is just wrong, and there's a bit more wind in there than the satellites can see. Okay, great. But if it turns out that this still comes true and they really run into this area and they do get, you know, 2.9, 3.9 knots, then they will get stuck in there for a while, because if we go even further ahead, let's say 29 hours, well, same, just as bad. 30, you can see it just growing and growing and growing. 53 growing. Now we're like 2 days ahead. Another day, and it just, you know, basically 4 days from now is when it starts to get a little bit better. But like, yeah, it's pretty. It's going to be a long, slow grind if they really get stuck in there. So, and if we compare for the rest of the fleet, so if we give them kind of a box, let's say, to kind of move through, then what do we see if we kind of scroll ahead in there? So we're 2 hours plus now. Now we see that there's at least some wind in there, right? 5, still good. 11, good. Let's go up to 20, pretty good. 39, so it's a bit varied, right? It's light. And definitely the heavier part is here. So that's kind of the area where constantly for them there will be less wind. So they have to kind of cross this trough with just no wind also, but it would be a lot smaller than where Jean and Conrad are basically moving into it right now. But oof, I don't know. Like all in all, even though Jean and Conrad are nicely ahead, I still don't know what the real difference is going to be once we see them get to the doldrums. And another thing, which of course we shouldn't forget, let me delete this here, is when we actually look at the doldrums, because the doldrums are not, the same everywhere, and generally the doldrums are always thickest here. So the most active here, just off of the point sort of Africa, where this hot wind is sort of blown off the continent. Which means that ideally also we would like to pass somewhere, more on the west side, so kind of central in the Atlantic to cross there. And of course, both Conrad and Jean, as you can see, still have quite some westing to do then. So even though they are making their way more south now, eventually they are going to have to cross that distance to the west unless they want to get, unless they want to cross the doldrums really in the worst possible place to cross the doldrums. And the doldrums are generally a lot more permanent, so they also move up, etc. But the Azores High tends to move around quite a bit. But the doldrums are very steady, especially in that sort of central spot right here, where sometimes it's like moves a little bit, but generally, yeah, you can really get stuck in there and turned around in there because also a lot of sea currents in there. Yeah, so that's a place that you really want to avoid. So they are going to have to get more west. But yeah, that's a tactical situation. It's just not going fast, so there isn't like a lot of tactical things in the next like 2 days, because it's just going to take them another 2 days to kind of get through this. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but at least it's a fun ride to watch, right? So yeah, pretty concise update for now. Let's just enjoy the low winds, make sure that, or hope that everybody is going to be able to effect most of their most important repairs while they're in this weather. And then once they actually get through the Azores High, find a good access place to the doldrums, well, then we'll see from there. Still probably 2, 3, maybe 4 days to go before we get to that point. So that's it for today. See you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.